Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah, and welcome to the Bookish Knitter. Today, this is very exciting and very nerve-wracking for me, to be completely honest. I have Sasha Summers here that I am interviewing, and I am so excited. So we have done interviews on this channel before, but I've always had co-hosts, so I'm flying solo today.
You got this, girl. Because I'm nervous too, so we're great.
Oh, we'll just be nervous together. It's fine. This is not the first time we've chatted. We did talk on the Categorically Romance podcast. And I know you're going to be back on there in a few weeks. Am I right? Talk to Brie and Aaron?
I think it's next week, actually. I think it's like the day of or after release.
Oh, that's very exciting. So yes, so we are here to talk about her new book, The Sweetest Thing, which is the first book in the Honey Acre series.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, that is right. Yes.
So yay. So would you like to share with us what the book is about?
Well, sure. First, I will give you a beautiful like block.
I have to go and buy. I've finished the book, you guys. Full disclosure, when you watch my vlog that goes out on Monday, you're going to hear me rave about the book. Yay. But I have to get a physical edition. So
yes, you do, because, and I will tell everybody that watches this edition has like Bees to Honey in the back, so you get both the novel and the novella. And if you do the paper book, I have a honey recipe for every chapter. So it's a great, it's a fun, it's like an activity book for adults.
We always love a good activity.
Yes, exactly. And cooking, feeding, it's all good. It's all very nurturing.
Right. So tell us what the book's about. Like, share with us the idea and all that good stuff.
So it is a definite enemies to lover, kind of second chance romance, but not really, because they were never firmly established when they were in high school. And it's one of those things where I had fun writing it, because the hero, Dane Knudsen, who definitely uses like his whole Viking heritage, which really is just a marketing ploy, right? And he totally, if you follow me at all, or you know me, you know that I am a Thor devotee. So he is completely, entirely, 100% based on Chris Hemsworth, which such a hard thing to do. So he kind of is running his family's honey farm, but it's totally with kind of reluctance. So he's decided he's going to do this project that's going to get them back on the map, kind of thing, and maybe get his dad refocused and centered, because his dad's character. Anyway, so there's Dane, who's just kind of trying, but really everything is against him. I mean, truly, if you look, it's kind of like, poor guy. I mean, he's super snarky and fast. I love how fast he is on his feet with the kind of stuff I can never come up with when I'm talking to somebody, you know what I mean? But he just, he's so great. But he does come across a certain way. So until you actually understand him, you're like, oh, dude, yeah, I get it, totally. And Tansy, she is one of 5 women. They're called the Bee Girls. And they all run their own family honey farm that's been around for centuries, or generations at least. And Dane and Tansy have kind of butted heads since the girls moved in with their grandparents about middle school. So since then, it has been one of those kind of one-upmanship situations where he could get by a lot on his charm, because Chris Hemsworth, and she worked hard because she wanted to prove to everyone that she was the best. And she is very controlling. She has a way she wants things done. She wants to be in the middle of it. She wants to know what's going on. So when she sees that Dane is going to do this, like, agritourism expansion, she loses it. So the first scene between the two of them is literally the two of them going toe to toe, and he's just driving her crazy, and she's just getting more and more flustered. Matt pretty much they're kind of back and forth for quite a while, until you realize that they're almost in a very similar situation. Dane doesn't know it, but both of their homes and their livelihoods and their good names are precariously situated at the moment. So they have to not necessarily work together, but they do end up doing things together for the greater good, if you will. And Tansy, for example, she's the oldest of her sisters. So when she sees that Dane is struggling with his younger brother, who I adore, Leaf. I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh. Please, I need him to have his own book at some point.
I have 4 kids, so I love writing kids at every age, because there's always something about them. Your 4 and 5-year-old, they can be the speaker of truth, because that's what kids do. They blab. Teenagers are going to be sullen and hold things in and see things in a way that adults don't. I hope I don't lose touch with that. Maybe I'm still really juvenile. I'll work with it, whatever. But I love Dana's Leaf is so wounded, and
Yeah.
he's so angry, but it's because he's wounded. So,
Mhm.
and he's a really tough little kid to crack. So it takes a while for them to kind of come to an understanding. When they do, it's awesome.
Mhm.
But yeah, so there's the family. So you've got the Knudsen family, and then you've got the Hill family. And the town I like to think of as another character because there's so many fun personalities. The junior beekeepers, which is all the teenagers, and then there's Willa Dean's group, and Willa Dean is kind of just the
Yeah.
ultimate gossip.
Yeah.
Yes, who likes to keep things
Like,
stirred
oh,
up.
she's back again.
Yeah, it's like one of those characters you love to hate because she's
Yeah.
not ever overtly mean, but she's totally snarky and snide and slipping things in there. And yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
A little too honest, if you will.
yes, yes, definitely. And she's always looking for something, right? To be able to tell the next big kind of news.
Yep.
So yeah, she definitely keeps things interesting.
Mhm.
And then you've got ants, and they have their own little
Love my
stories,
aunt.
and I do too. I love them. Which is so if you haven't read the novella, I will give you a little bit of a sneak peek. The first one, the Like Bees to Honey, is about Camellia.
Ooh.
And the second novella is about the family, but it's from Mag's point of view.
Nice.
I really want all of them to have, yeah. So if you've read it, then you know that there is at least one other woman that needs to have her story told that kind of shows
Mhm.
up.
Mhm.
And then I would love for a Nicole, who's this kooky kind of fun. I would love to give both of them books, but we'll just have to
Absolutely.
see how it goes. But yeah, it's right. Um, I think it's a really kind of immersive experience because the whole bee thing. I mean,
Yes.
I tried not to just throw it in there for stuff. I tried to make it a legitimate, this
Of
is their
course.
life.
Mhm.
So hopefully that came across.
And I like that because, I mean, contemporary romance, small town contemporary romance is a thing. I mean, I read a ton of it. It's my bread and butter. It's where I got my start reading romance. And they do tend to, like, they follow almost like a cookie cutter. I hate to use that terminology, but small
Yeah,
town, you get these quirky characters. What I loved about this was the bee aspect, and you can really tell reading it, you know your stuff. Like, like, legit, I'm like, I said to my husband, I'm reading, I'm like, I legitimately feel like I'm learning something along with this.
that's great. The only thing is I want to make sure it's not like I'm beating you over the head with it. It's like you will learn this stuff about bees.
But
So
as you're reading it, like, not that I'm afraid of bees, but I think we all, as a human, like, you're outside, you see one and you're automatically, right?
yes, yes,
But
100%.
it kind of made me, as I'm reading it, think, okay, I've got to, the respect,
Right.
because really, and the job that beekeepers do, it's was really interesting. So this is something you've gotten into recently yourself personally?
Very recently. And it's been a really kind of interesting I don't know. I mean, my husband has just bought me bee boxes, so hopefully we'll get bees here pretty quick. I'm very excited about it because I started with COVID, everything was kind of shut down, so there's some virtual classes, and so I just kind of
Yeah.
watched those, and then there's this wonderful woman here. She probably won't watch it, but her name is Molly Keck, and she works for the Ag Extension Agency here. And she
Mhm.
actually did a 1 day like intensive, and then we got to go out and open up the hives and actually interact. Oh my God, that was it. That was it. My daughter, she was so cute. She was going to come and take pictures because you can't really take pictures in a bee suit, right? They're not.
Sure.
And Molly's arm, she's like, okay, suit up. And so she was not expecting to have to go out there because I think everyone at first is like, no, bees. She had fun too. And then so I'm going to be sharing those videos and stuff over the next week because her little face, she's got one of those very expressive faces. And she's 21, so she's not a baby girl. But anyways,
She is.
23. Oh my gosh, she's 23. Yes, to me, she always will be. But that was such a cool thing because Molly was just very chill, kind of.
Mhm.
But some of the things she said, so that was my first in-person thing. Some of the things that she told me differed from something when I went to a next class from a different teacher. So I have learned that just like writing, beekeepers do things differently. So I know that many beekeepers will read this and they'll be like, oh, well, it's not such a big deal. And for them, it's not. But for it was something that Molly was really concerned about. And I just took that as like, whether you want that was the way it was. And then I went to another place and it's like, okay, so you don't have to do it that way. That was her preference. Okay, fine. So
Mhm.
that's my biggest concern is that some of the stuff that I know now that I thought was just the end all be all, I'm like, but we'll see. Hopefully, the beekeepers will understand that I am a beekeeper in training. But I have gotten to learn so much about the people that are beekeepers, and they're all amazing. I have never met such a generous group. They're very
Okay.
communicative. I got to go to their conference here in the summer and
Oh,
just
wow.
sat there and stoked it all up. Yeah, I have a picture with a Texas honeybee queen. It's pretty awesome. She's so cute. It's like a it's like a scholarship program, but these
That's
kids have to
neat.
do a certain number of hours, kind of like the junior beekeepers. They
Yeah.
have to do a certain number of hours to get the accreditation, and then it's a contest, and it's really cool. It's kind of a community liaison for teens.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
So, like, what was it about? Like, what was it that you said bees? I just want to like. Did you read something? What was it that drew you?
Well, honestly, I had just finished a contract with a different publishing house, and they were like,
Mhm.
we need something new, we need something different. And so I always try and go out and look and see what's, new and big and happening. And it may not be new, it might just be something that's currently trending or whatever. And there was a conversation with a Texas beekeeper, Erica Thompson. You've probably seen her. She's a beautiful blonde lady that works with the bees with no equipment. And I was like, okay, first, she's gorgeous. And
Yeah.
secondly, beekeeping, and so that was
Yeah.
it. I was down the rabbit hole. And
So it came first, and then the books came from. So
exactly.
you did it because of the books.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It was kind of one of those things where, I have a fascination. I think we all do, with like, we know about bees, but like you said, they can be kind of scary.
Mhm.
But it's become such a thing if you look, environmentally, the
Mhm.
beekeeping aspect is really important. And so it was kind of I can maybe teach people something about bees and make
That's
them less
awesome.
scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was really, really well done. I
Oh,
liked it
thank you.
quite a bit. And I didn't realize that, like, as they're talking, like, I knew about, like, lotions and butters and things like
Mhm.
that, and the one thing I didn't know is, like, how many different recipes there can be
Oh my gosh.
for honey, and I guess it all depends on what area you live in, like, if
Mhm.
you have bees up here in Canada or bees in Texas, they're
Yes.
gonna be different, you
Yes.
know? That was
100%.
fascinating too.
Yeah, I had read a story during all the research, and I thought this is kind of sad, but bees will learn to survive. It was in a very urban area, and there was a
Mhm.
huge beehive on a trash can. And I mean, it had built like a huge hive, so there's all this different comb in there. But the comb was actually like a bright green and a bright
Ooh.
red because they had been foraging out of the soda from the restaurant, and so that honey was just basically like Fanta Red and
Oh
that
my
kind of stuff.
gosh,
So I don't think anybody actually kept it because again it was in a trash can in an urban area. But the
sure.
idea that you can have, I mean, you could literally do that. You could, and that's why a lot of bee farmers will actually plant certain fields so that they
Okay,
can try to get like lavender fields. Obviously, that's going to be really yummy, or clover fields.
okay,
But you then have to be also kind of aware of what you're planting because if you don't have enough of something, they're going to go and find other stuff. So, yeah,
sure.
the wild bees, you never know what you're going to get because
Oh,
they're just
that
out.
is
Yeah.
so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I love it. So you mentioned the Chris Hemsworth, and I had to bring this up
Mhm.
because I'm gonna show my age. Um, when I read the scene in the book where the little girl comes up to
Mhm.
Dane, that just but the scene that got me for that reminded me of, excuse me,
Mhm.
years ago, the movie
Adventures in
Adventures in
Babysitting.
Babysitting.
I just said it.
Okay.
Adventures in Babysitting.
Right?
Oh,
And
that's
I'm just like,
great. Yes.
"Sarah," and she's that scene when they're in the garage and it's Vincent
Vincent
D'Onofrio
D'Onofrio.
playing Thor. I just that was the because that was my childhood.
Yes. Yes.
And Thor wasn't Thor back then. He
Right.
wasn't Chris Hemsworth
Right.
back then. So did
Exactly.
you have that in mind? Was he like
Very
was that
much
scene at
so,
all?
yes, because the
Okay.
whole, she's so awestruck when she sees him in the movie, right? And so for
Yeah.
me, these kids today are growing up on Marvel. I mean, my goodness, they could name all of them more probably much
Right?
better than I can. So the idea that she would immediately run over to him just it seemed natural, right? Because she's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, and it is a joke through the whole movie that he hates that people are like, oh, can I have a selfie with you because you look just
yeah.
like him? And he's like, I do not, but he totally does. So the fact that she would just run over there because she knows he's a good guy, to me,
Yeah.
children, innocence. And I love that scene. Yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he doesn't know what to do.
It's a
And
child.
of
What
course,
do I do with
yeah,
this thing?
and then
Yeah.
Toby shows up, and she really doesn't know what to do. So the two of them together, it's not that they're anti-kids, but they're definitely not in a place to have kids. So I love that scene. It's a lot of fun. And then when the brother shows
Oh,
up,
yeah, and he's like,
oh
"Oh,
yeah,
yeah, it's fine." Yeah.
yeah,
And the mom's probably like, you
yeah.
know?
100%. Yeah. So no, that was a great scene. And I think that the smaller scenes can sometimes be the most enjoyable because it's just a little moment. So
you really get to know the characters a bit more. Like with Tansy, it's like in that scene, like you said, she didn't know either. And automatically you would normally assume that like the woman, not that I'm trying to define roles, but she would be like, okay, this is what we need to do. But she's just as like, and I loved that. I absolutely loved that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, if it had been Astrid, the other sister, fine.
Right?
Astrid's like Earth Mother, right? She would have just taken care of everything. But yeah, no, Tansy and Dane, they're very similar. I think by the time the book is over, you realize that. But I mean, they're fiercely loyal, but when it comes to like being in touch with their own emotions per se, maybe not as on the that's so great, right? So no, I really love the town, and I again, those little snippets and scenes I think are very, I hope that they're alive in your head, you know what I mean, that you can see it.
Yeah, and like watching the two of them interact with the junior beekeepers and the junior beekeepers interacting with each other is just delightful. And as I'm reading it, this part of me is thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, so in about 10 years, she can do like the next generation and have like
oh my gosh, I love it. You know, Carrie Lynn and
like, like Felix and Carrie Lynn. And I'm like, oh, and that first love relationship between Leaf and her is just that little the eyes at each other. It's just so innocent and just so sweet.
Right.
It melts your heart.
Yeah. No, I love them because it was one of those things where it's like, well, gosh, is it going to be too much for him to have love interest? And it's like, wait. This would be the whole reason he's acting out is, he's protecting her. And of course, he's never going to say that. But if someone was trashing her, then he's going to come to her defense and he'll like be embarrassed about it and won't admit it because that was mean. But so yeah, no, it was so much fun. He was just, he's a great character. The scene in the principal's office, I love, when the dad just leaves and they're like, wait.
I know. And the dad shows up. I'm like, who are you? What are you doing here? You need to go.
Let Dean handle it. He's got it.
You have issues and I'm sorry for whatever they are, but I don't like you very much.
Exactly. And that can be so much fun when you write, I don't want to say bad because he really is very self-absorbed. That's for sure.
Yes.
But if you can make them slightly, less than just a one note, like a flat bad guy kind of thing, I have more fun with that. I love to kind of not necessarily give them a reason for what the choices that they're making, but to kind of let the reader see and be flabbergasted that they're making those choices, but that it kind of makes sense, maybe. He was one of those characters, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So hello to everybody in the comments. I'm just looking over here that we do have. If any of you have any questions for Sasha, please do post them in the comments. I am looking. So we can definitely answer those as well. Now, I have to be honest. I'm not a huge movie person. I've never seen Say Anything.
Okay.
But that scene is iconic even to someone who hasn't seen the movie.
Yes.
And you do mention it quite a bit in the book. Like I'm assuming it's a favorite movie of yours.
Yes.
But does music just in general play a big part in your life too?
It does. And my husband and my son would both laugh at me for saying that because I don't listen to the radio very often because to me right now there's a lot of noise. I like lyrics. I'm a word person, right? So that song, if you just read the lyrics, it's a love poem, right? And so for me, the idea now, obviously I'm old enough that, I could be the parents of Dane and Tansy. And so the idea of that being a first date and then having lost both her parents, that would be like one thing, right? If they had watched it together before they had gone. So I think Tansy holds on to the movie because it's a way to keep connected with her parents. And it's a strange, kooky movie. I will be honest with you. If John Cusack's in it, it's going to be a little kooky, but
it's true. It's true. Yeah.
And his sister is in it as well. Of course, Joan or what was Jessie from Toy Story. Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't know why I've always enjoyed his teen movies, and then later I loved Grosse Point Blank, which is also super kooky. But and there's a scene in The Sweetest Thing where they're talking back and forth, and they mention watching the movie, and he's like refers to Lloyd Dobler as a stalker, and it's true because in this day and age, that scene would not have been in the movie because that is stalking. I mean, he's outside her window at night holding a window. And my 48-year-old self was like, oh my gosh, that's the most romantic thing in the world. My 23-year-old daughter is like, Mom, it's kind of creepy. So, it's very, whatever. But if you know Lloyd, then he's a good guy,
Yeah.
but I really, and I tried to make, I think, the ending a little bit of a flip, because normally there's this big grand gesture that's expected. And I liked kind of changing the table on that one, because I felt like of the two of them, there was a lot left unsaid on that person's part.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I
Agreed.
love that. I love that it worked out that way. And I didn't want to say what, because
No, of course not. Of course not.
but
We
that,
know it's a happy ending, but it's the journey of getting there. That's the best part.
exactly. Yes. No. So yeah, no, so many great characters. Van. Yeah. I mean, a lot of, I think that's the thing, is it was just kind of like, and I'm a weird person when I say this, I know it, but when I'm writing, I see it. It's definitely playing out like a movie, but I don't feel like I'm necessarily making the choices. I feel like I'm kind of writing along.
They're driving the car. You're just,
yes. I'm just I'm dictating it.
Yeah.
And this was definitely that experience, because
Mm-hmm.
there were some things I wouldn't know they were going to say, or like in the barn with the ladder scene, I wasn't expecting that to happen. So that, I love that. I love that when that happens, because you have to have a roadmap, with the basic, make sure you get everything that needs to be there. But I don't ever overplot for fear of taking that kind of excitement and surprises away. So
yeah, when you as the writer are surprised as well, to me, it would just make it that much more exciting for you.
100%. Yeah, no, the surprise at Honey Hill Farms, when someone shows up from out of the blue.
Yes.
I was expecting this person to be alone, but then I had to have an addition, because I was like, oh, what are we missing? Oh, we don't have a baby.
That's what we need.
I'm gonna throw the baby in there because I love babies.
Right?
So it was definitely okay, what are we missing? What is somebody, is you want them to have a full life, even though they're fictional characters. Man, I sound a little crazy right now. Sorry.
No. But as a writer, I can absolutely see that these are I fancy that it's something I'd like to do. I dabble, but there's just not enough hours in the day. But I can absolutely see how it would take over in a way. Like the story itself, once you get into it, would completely take over, and the characters would be like, "I got this." Just type. Just type.
That's what I call it, like when you're in the groove, when they're officially just pulling you along and you're not even thinking, and that's the time when you get interrupted. That's the worst, right? Because it's like, I can feed you in a minute, dog. You know what I mean? Or it's like, what do you mean you can't find the Advil? It's right over the house. You know what I mean? It's like those little things. And for the most part, they've all figured out that when I'm like, they leave me alone. But
when you're in the zone, you're in the zone.
Yeah, exactly. Don't mess with the zone. So,
and it's not just the human characters that I love. Like Lord Byron was just like, from page one, I'm like, my cats would hate you.
Yes. And that was the thing, is, I love the ants so much. They're completely different characters, but the fact that he would have like singled her out as this person to just, I love that so much. So of course, he's going to stay for the whole series. He has to, because he's just super careful. But he just a little side character, but you see him just as fully, and how he's sitting there in the kitchen with the rest of them, just waiting to torment her, basically. So
repeating everything that
yep. And of course he's spoiled by the other aunt, Camellia.
Of course he is. He's a baby.
He's a baby.
And all the cats and dogs, and then like she like just picks up stray animals, and I'm like, that's like my life goal, is to, I said to my husband, if we ever won the lottery, I'd want a farm where I can just pick up stray animals and just goats, llamas, alpacas, whatever.
The donkeys. Yeah, she has the big donkey and the little donkey. Yeah,
absolutely. Everyone needs a donkey.
Yes. Camellia is she's just this very vibrant character. She's kind of an amalgam of a lot of the women in my family. Just, if you come in that door, your family, and she's going to feed you, because food is important for her. And that's that. She's going to be very sympathetic if you have a problem. She's going to be what you need. Whereas Max is very much kind of, well, what did you do about it? You know what I mean? She's much more of a self-independent kind of character. So that sister bond, which I love so much, but very different all at the same time.
Yeah, siblings plays a huge part in this book. Huge. And I didn't realize that going in. And when I finished it, I kind of stepped back and went, like not just the sisters, both sets of sisters, really.
Right.
But the brother relationship as well. It was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that that they were people that you cared about.
It resonated. It's something that I noticed, and I really, really liked it. So yeah.
That is good.
And that's not your only book coming out Tuesday, is it?
No, it's not.
What did you?
didn't realize that they did this. But it's a very different group. The reading group is, but I have a copy of that one too. It's super cute cover. Look at the dogs.
I love the dogs.
Yes, and it's the Rancher's Full House, and it's book. I always get it wrong. Is it 3, 4, 4?
I think it's 3 or 4. Yeah.
In the Texas Cowboys and Canines, and it is a very charming, and we've met him before, bachelor who is not going to get married ever, doesn't want to have anything to do with kids. And then the new elementary school teacher rolls into town, and she's, he meets her. The opening scene's pretty great. He pulls over because there's a woman crawling around on the side of the Texas roadside. And if you have ever driven in Texas, there's not a lot of good stuff. I mean, we're talking cactus and fire ants, you name it. She doesn't seem aware. She's literally almost into this ditch. And so he pulls over and he's like, "Can I help you?" And she's like, "There's a kitten. It looks like it was injured on the road." Well, it's a baby bobcat. It's not a kitten. But he, being a veterinarian, thank goodness, he helps get it out, and he says he'll take it back to the clinic. And that's when he realizes that she's absolutely adorable and he doesn't know who she is. So, they exchange kind of and he's like, "Stop by anytime." So she says, but when she stops by, she has her 4 half siblings that she is now the custodian of because her mom passed. So she has a teenager down to a baby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so because mom and dad were very, very happy together. So he sees her come in and he's like, no, this is not.
Not what I signed up for.
But of course, all the kids are adorable, and he's gonna eventually have his defenses worn down. But it's a really sweet, lots of kids, lots of kid interaction, lots of animals, but warm fuzzies, because I love warm fuzzies. I think warm fuzzies are an essential part of our life. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I don't know if we talked about this while you were on the podcast. I can't remember, but different venue. Really, what's the difference in your mindset writing a I want to call it a standalone, even though it's part of a series,
right,
to a category? Because they are 2 different beasts.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, and alone, just looking at the size, right?
I know. Yeah.
So, so category, obviously, you're going to focus a little bit more on the hero and heroine. There's secondary characters, but they actually caution you, don't let a secondary character take over, because you do have a finite amount of time, right? So save those secondary characters and give them their own book, which is now this by the time it's all done will be 7 books at least, and I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. So because my Boons was 8 books. So you just collect new characters, or you spend enough time with them that you're like, oh, okay, this person needs. So they can be there and they can help move the plot, but they can't be distracting, if you will. And so really with the category, it's just about the couple. You're not going to have the big set piece in The Sweetest Thing, where there's the big honey competition. That's a huge point, right?
Yes.
And Dane's expansion is a huge point. And then Mag's surprise is a huge point. You couldn't put any of that, or I mean, you could, but I don't think you could get the amount of emotion involved that you would want in a category just because of word count.
Yep.
So when you do mass market, what they like to say is, kind of a big world item, something that's not, so it's small town, but there's something that is just kind of world altering for that space, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like a bigger view of things. So you have to kind of work out how you can keep your couple front and center, but also to make sure that there's bigger events that are happening, that fit, that you're not just throwing something in there, right? Random conflict. So I mean, right now, finding conflict about bees is pretty easy. I will tell you, there is, I met some amazing beekeepers, and one of them is named Charlie Bee. And and he's in Texas here, and he's hysterical. I have some of him rapping about bees at the conference. He was
wow.
But he actually has a show with PBS. And it's so good. I would recommend anybody who's thinking about beekeeping, go watch, because he's funny, but he will teach you, but it's totally not, again, here's a book, let's read it. Whereas Animal Planet came up with a show, and I'm just kind of my husband's like, well, people just love watching train wrecks. And it kind of is like this. It's called The Beezar.
Okay.
And it was kind of like the Bee Movie. The Bee Movie, there was basically nothing right. So don't reinforce that for your kids, because it's it's just a cartoon. This guy, it's kind of if you know your bees, if you buy your bees, and they're not I want to say native bees, but kind of yeah, native bees, I guess is the best word to say it. If you buy your bees from, I know it sounds strange, but you have all these different apiaries that will sell bees to you. And they have spent hundreds of years kind of perfecting those bees' DNA. It's a weird thing. So they're gentle. They're gentle bees. They won't, you have to really upset them.
They're domesticated bees.
Yes, exactly right. And the easiest way to fix that is, when every couple of years, if your bees are starting to breed with the local bees and they're starting what they call in Texas hot bees, because a lot of our bees are Africanized and they don't have a really good temper. The African killer bee thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you can actually replace the queen and put in a nice queen, and then all of her babies will continue her genes.
Okay.
There's actually ways to control bees. And I think if people will learn that, that they don't have to be, it's all in what you're in it for, I guess. But it's a big world and there's options and people that are willing to teach you. And this bees are guy was just, don't watch it. It was just, you know what I mean? It was kind of like you couldn't afford it. At the same time, he's just in jeans and a t-shirt and there's swarms all over him. And I knew he was getting stung. And that this isn't the kind of thing you want your kids to try and imitate. You know what I mean? But I guess it's exciting. Yeah, Charlie B is actually a really cool TV show. And if you can find him on PBS, I would recommend it because you'll learn stuff, but he's funny. So, it's a win-win.
I will have to check that out.
Yes.
So we have a question. Let me just show this. Do your category books need to be read in order?
No, ma'am. I try to make sure that you can pick up anything of mine out of order. The only thing, obviously, is that the couples in the first books that precede it will already be together. But you can still. It's not like you will have to have that information to jump in. So I try.
I've always said that, like again. It's a happy ever after. The couple that you meet on page 1 is going to be the couple at the end of the book, but it's the journey. That's the fun part.
Exactly. I look at all, because we were talking about books that we had read recently, and I jumped on the Court of Thorns and Roses. Is that right?
Okay. Yes.
So I'm on book 3 right now. And it's so cool because in that genre, the rules are way more wiggly, right? You can play with it. So the whole idea of the romantic triangle and the no knowledge that someone might actually die, that's relatively important. All of that is it's great because I don't get to write that right now. So the fun, I tend to not read what I'm writing, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
Because you just but I have really enjoyed it. Even though some of it I'm kind of like I want to shake a character. I can understand why.
But that's a sign of good writing.
Exactly.
Like when you can make a character, like you can love a character, but if you can make a character that you don't like, I think that's personally for me as a reader.
Yes, I 100% agree. Yeah, and and like I said, going back to the villains, I just don't want them to be kind of so pat and trite, if you will, but it's kind of like, oh well, they're just the villain. You know what I mean? It's you want to have something in them that makes them human, not necessarily good, but believable, I guess.
And where's another one here? Tina says she loves your books.
Hi, Tina. She's a sweetie. My best friend, Tina.
Aww. And Storm, I'm trying not to be so read in order with romances, but I can't do it. Storm and I are good friends, and we talk all the time because I am very much of the school of thought where life is too short.
Yeah.
Just read, unless you're talking like the Harry Potter series.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Court of Thorns and Roses. Some series need to be read in order, right?
100%.
Totally.
Right.
But for me, I'm like, but this one has a cute cover and it's on my shelf, so I'm going to read it now.
I totally agree. When I saw, so I love this cover. But when I saw the sequel cover, I don't know if you've seen it.
I saw it.
Oh my God. I was like, I've never wanted to have a cover blown up and printed, and I'm totally going to do it with the series.
Good for you.
It's so pretty. I just want to go there. I was like, oh my gosh. So they have done great with these covers. I think they're my favorite of all my covers, really, because they're
absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. And I love that they get the romance and the bee thing across, which is kind of a strange mix. It really is.
It does, yeah. It works, people. I'm telling you, go and get the book. It absolutely works.
I'm so glad you liked it.
Oh gosh, I really, and I'm not just saying that, like legitimately, I just absolutely adore the book. I thought it was so cute.
Aww.
You touched on that, paranormal. I get fantasy, paranormal. That you have written that in the past.
I have, yes.
Is it something you're considering ever going back to again? Do you have any ideas?
Oh yes, that's the problem. I have so many ideas.
And not enough hours in the day.
Yeah. And I know I'm not the only author. There are a lot of authors out there who I have like a little file card box that I just put my ideas in and I set them aside. So don't forget, because that would be really sad. But yeah, I mean, I have a Greek mythology series and it's 3 books, but it is really 5. So I have the other 2 I still need to write. And then like Tina, for example, she loved my werewolf book, which I'd never planned to write werewolves ever, but that was just one of those weird editor things. And I said, so you mean like a billionaire with a wolf shifter? And she's like, yes, write it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I did. And so there's readers of those books that are like, well, there were 2 other members of the pack. You need to go back and write those 2. And I'm like, okay. So I would love to go back and write some more paranormal. There's a freedom, because you can create your own rules.
Sure.
That's kind of fun. But right now, I've been so lucky to have such a solid career with Harlequin that, you have to prioritize. So I would love to get in a place, again, the last 6 months have been crazy, crazy, crazy. I would love to get in a place where I can work on my contracts and then try to have an indie project to get out as well.
Sure.
But we'll see. I'm honestly, that's not going to happen this year. I'll be very upfront about that. There's just not enough time right now. So
there's just not enough hours in the day or days in the year, if you will.
Exactly. It's like if I could sleep less, but I'm not sleeping a whole bunch. So it's like, no, that's not going to work. So, but yeah, ideally.
I said that to somebody the other day. I'm like, how is it the end of June? Where did 2022 go?
I have no idea, but it's been like, oh, okay, we're here. Yeah, okay, we're here.
All right, fine, great.
It's insane. You're right. It's been a long 6 months, but yeah.
But it's been good, right? Like it's been positive for you, essentially.
Yes, with the books, and I mean, I have my editor is like my hero. She's just amazing. And she's been my editor the entire time I've been at Harlequin. She's so great to kind of bounce ideas off when I'm stuck and stuff. Right. So working with her has always been a joy. And she's been just as invested in the Sweetest Thing series too. So we've been both really excited and kind of feeding off of it, which is good. You want someone who's with you. My family, it's for them, it's not a big deal, right? They're just like, oh yeah, it's another book. Congrats, Mom. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's nice when you can talk to someone who does, kind of get it. But
Yep. I love this comment. Puts in my order for a small town witches rom-com. Oh I just love them. There's been a couple of witchy books, like the X-Hex came out last year, was delightful. That seems to be a trend now, I've noticed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Small
just putting it out there.
And I'm like, and I don't have a notebook in front of me, which is ironic because I
know, right?
I will write it on my hand. Small town witches. Okay. That could be
just
fun.
come back and look at the comments later. You'll be fine.
Good. I'm like, I have a lipstick, no pen, so that wouldn't really work on the hand.
Right?
So
Exactly. And The Sweetest Thing is your 20th book with Harlequin too. Congratulations. That's fantastic.
No,
that's a long running Harlequin. I advocate for them. I advocate for category. I have for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, being a writer, that a lot of people consider them not to be.
Yes.
Right? Let's not go there and say it, because we know the truth.
Yeah. It's kind of
And that's why I push them and I talk about them, because they're fabulous. And Harlequin, to my understanding now, I don't know what it was like back before, treats their authors well. Like,
I have never had a negative experience with them.
Yeah.
And, I mean, 2 of my category lines closed when I first started. I was writing Western and Blaze, the sex year.
Yes.
And I enjoyed writing for both of the lines. I was super sad when they closed, but they really tried to move those authors to other lines. They weren't like, see ya, So I feel, and I've worked with, I think, almost all publishers now, Entangled and Thule and Source Books. I have had my most positive experience. I'm not saying the others are bad, but Harlequin, to me, takes very good care of their authors. They really invest in your career.
Absolutely. Have you thought, because like you said, you got your start kind of with well, I still refer to it as American Romance, but the Western Romance
Yes,
line
yes,
and the Blaze line.
yes.
Have you thought about dipping your toes outside of special edition and maybe writing for Desire or
I wanted to write for Desire, but Johanna, because I do write for Heartwarming too.
That's right, yes.
So
Yeah.
it was kind of like I'm not sure.
Yeah, true enough.
And because I am naturally, I tend to lean a little more to the steamier side. So so the Heartwarming was a challenge for me in the beginning. But they're
No
super
thanks,
sweet.
none at
Yeah,
all, really.
exactly. I know. There was a whole scene in the kitchen where it's one of those smolder scenes, where it's like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
both
yeah.
kind of looking at each other and nothing ever happens, but it's definitely. And my editor was like, it's a little too hot. And I'm like, they're not even touching each other. She's like, but I can feel it rolling off the page. And I'm like, I'm going to take that as a compliment and just move along. But it was so funny.
Copy it out and paste it to something else. Yeah.
It was like,
This
they're
is
just
getting used.
standing there. So yeah, so like the sweetest thing, it is a sweeter read. I mean, it's definitely, there's cussing and there's some definitely lovely making out scenes, but they don't actually on the page. So they don't actually at all. So so that's something that I'm very aware of, because I think there is right now sweet seems to be pretty popular. But yeah, but at the same time, organically, I tend to have a little something in there. So I did want to kind of try and balance it a little bit in the sweetest thing. Honestly, the scenes that were in there felt organic. I don't think they would have, gone all the way. It wouldn't have fit as well. So, and honestly, that's something else when I'm writing, I kind of let the characters, I don't want to say decide, because again, that's weird sounding, but yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
They will tell you if it's something that, we're just not ready just yet.
Exactly.
Thank you for asking.
Yes. Because I'm working on the second one right now. It's actually due here pretty quick, and it is totally a grumpy Sunshine, right? Because Astrid is definitely Sunshine.
Yes.
And he does not say much, so a lot of it is him reacting in such a way that you're kind of wincing, because he's not a good people person at all.
Okay.
He's been a real character to write. Because I'll give you a little. He inherited, so he had been married for a couple of years, very short, to his best friend. Married her because she didn't have insurance, because she had 2 young kids. So they got married because he's just socially awkward. I would say possibly even on the spectrum a little bit, because of the way he is with people. He just kind of shuts down. Terrible family upbringing, so that feeds into it as well. So she has a 5-year-old and a 13-year-old. And she dies. She gets hit in a car crash, and so she dies. And so Charlie is now the adoptive parents of these 2 little girls, because there is nobody else to take them. And him trying to raise them, even have a conversation with them, has been heartbreaking in so many moments, because he wants to say and do things, but he is so afraid that, because of his older siblings and his super competitive family, right? They were just very that he won't measure up, or he won't be good enough. Even for the girls, they'll realize that he doesn't know what he's doing, and they'll make fun of him, or they'll want to leave him. So he's this sweet, very awkward man, who of course is beautiful, because and yeah, right. And so he's never been in love, because again, it's not something that's been part of his world. And then Astrid walks in, and she's kind of that ray of sunshine character that you meet her and you like her. I mean, I loved her from the first book. She's just sweet and good, and gives everybody the benefit of the doubt, and just wants to fix everything. And here's poor Charlie flailing, and she's pretty awesome. So
we haven't met him yet, right?
No, we have not met him. We will meet him in the novella. He's just mentioned, and he's just not hitting it off with the locals, because he's so grumpy and rude. And it's just, again, because that's how he comes across, is he doesn't. Yeah. So that's Astrid. And then the third book is Rosemary. Right now she's off in California. So yeah.
Yes.
So it'll be fun. She has to come home for a reason. So they're just great characters, and I've enjoyed it so much. So I'm hoping that we can stay in Honey for a while. And
I hope
that's funny, because in Honey means that you've got a whole bunch of honey too. So I just think it's all around. But I'm excited. I don't know if you've seen on social media. I've done a couple of posts up at Bee Weaver Farms. It's in Navasota up here, and it's the oldest family commercial honey farm in Texas. Great people, awesome. I've stayed at they've actually converted over their honey loft and made it like a little hotel VRBO. So I stayed there for a weekend, and I'm like, I just want to live here. Can I just move in? But I think I'm going to go up to one of their big events and get a table and do some book signing up there. So I'm really excited to do it on a honey farm. I mean, how cool would that be?
It's built-in promotion. Like, it's fabulous.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've definitely given him a lot of PR because like this is what I bought and I've been giving it away to different people. Isn't he cute? It's a little honey bear. So I'm excited about that. I would love to sign books at a honey farm for my honey books. I think that would be really cool.
Well, reading the book, every time Tansy was mentioned that, and they mentioned like she was wearing a button with a bee on it, or she had her wellies with a bee on it, or her earrings. I'm like on Amazon. Like, can I get these somewhere?
I was gonna say, see my little bee, and I do have blue Wellingtons with bees on them.
Nice.
My husband, when I was actually at the bee farm last time, he was going through. He's very OCD, so he was cleaning out the pantry, which great, awesome, do it. But he found honeycomb cereal, honey bunches of oats, 3 different kinds of honey, and then some honey, something or other. And he put them out and took a picture of them and sent them to me. And he said, "You have a problem." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh. I didn't even, the honeycomb and the honey bunches of oats." I'm like, I didn't even think about that as
when you're, you got immersed into the
exactly. I did 100%. I know, it's like this room I totally want to turn into. I mean, I have my bee painting that I got.
Oh, that's nice.
I love it. It's beautiful. And I want to turn this into a big honey kind of bee room, but he's kind of like, really
you just slowly do it so he doesn't mean.
It's
always looked like this. I don't know what you're talking
exactly. This isn't new. It's always been here. Yeah. And it's not like he watches social media, so he wouldn't know this, that I'm
exactly. Yeah. What happens on social media stays on social media.
That's exactly right. It's so funny because I did this TikTok with him in it, and he really does shy away from social media. But it was this whole thing, and I was like, okay, I know I'm not the only wife or mom that does this. I had purchased a certain cereal for myself. It was just for me. And I got up the next morning and the box was empty. And I was like, dude, this was my cereal. And he's like, well, your name wasn't on it. So I got another box and I wrote my name on it. I put it out there with his picture, my picture, and everything on TikTok. And people were like, yes, exactly. He's not amused, but it worked. It was my cereal.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Now,
my husband will take stuff into the basement.
Yes.
By his chair.
Really?
And
that's awesome. We don't have a basement, unfortunately, but I'll have to get creative with where I can hide things.
And you need for your man cave or whatever you want to call it. So Anne Marie is asking, I apologize if this has already been answered. I want to ask what inspired you to write your first book.
My very first book. Ooh. Honestly, I was working in a very unique industry at the time and working with a lot of children. I was working in the children's museum industry and reading a lot. And I had met an author that I thought she was amazing. And she was very kind and invited me to go with her romance writers group for their meeting. And I was like all wide-eyed because I told her I'd written a little bit. And that was kind of it, being in a room full of people that understood and loved and promoted and supported each other. I wrote a whole bunch of books back to back. It was Medusa and Hollywood Ever After and Hades. Those all like boom. And I signed with Too Small Press, which a lot of people will start that way. And that was it. I mean, I started with that and then met my first agent, and she was the one that was like, write something that I can sell to Harlequin, because she was a big Harlequin, and those were my Boon books.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was the first story itself was I had kind of a Stephanie Meyer's moment is what I guess I say, because she said that Twilight for her was a dream, and I had this dream, and I will still remember it to this day. It was so vivid. It was this man standing. And there was like a firestorm. I mean, it was very definitely like a fantasy kind of aura. And he's standing there and he's looking up at the sky, and this huge hole opens up at his feet, and you can see down below. It's hell, basically. And he's not moving, even though the hole is growing. He's braced and ready. And this woman is falling from above, and he catches her. And I was like, I know what this is. And that was it. So that book, that was Medusa. And I wrote, that's the fastest I've ever written a book. I want to say it was.
Really?
Yeah. because it was so vivid in my head.
Wow.
So yeah, because I'm an image person, I think that sometimes I'll see something, or I'll see an ad or something, and it'll trigger kind of a. There was a sign when I guess we went to get our passports renewed, and I was with my son. There was a sign on the post that was like lost dog, blah blah blah, and it was an older man putting it up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh my gosh, so I had this whole scene where the old man would go out with his old wife every morning or every Saturday or whatever and put up a new flyer for this dog. And the reason they kept doing it is because the wife has dementia and she kept forgetting that the dog was gone.
Oh.
And the dog had been gone for quite a while, but the husband still did it to make her feel better. And it's the hero and heroine, the younger couple in the town, that actually find the dog and bring it back to them. So I haven't written that. It was just an idea, but it was literally triggered by this old man.
By something that you saw. Yeah. Aw.
So
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting. So we have the next book in the series, in The Sweetest Thing. Well, The Honey Acres. Is it called officially The Honey Acre series?
Yes, The Honey Acres. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that's coming. When is that book coming out? I know it's due to your publisher.
Yes, I think it's the end of February, but I think it's like the February 28th, but it's basically March,
Fair enough.
So in the spring, and the cover's out there. You can pre-order it. I just love the cover. I mean, and it'll be the same format. There will be recipes for each of the chapters, and then there will be the next novella, which I believe, I don't know if anybody knows the name, but I'm going to tell you, is Honey Ever After. It's another novella, so it'll be at the back of that one. And then the third book, we don't have a title yet, so we'll see. We'll see. I know,
but you've been contracted for it essentially, right?
Yes. So book number 3 is the last one that I'm contracted for, and if they do really, really well, then I'm sure that we can do more. But if not, that's the way.
You have ideas for more, like potentially?
Yeah.
You're like, oh yes.
Definitely. Like I said, that there's the one woman that shows up that, yes, I mean, 100%.
I know. When I thought, yeah, she's got to be getting a book at some point.
Yes, that's. I mean, she has to, right? And then Nicole is just such a great character. She's been really strong in the first one, and she's really very sweet in the second one. And I was just kind of like, she deserves a happy ending. So we'll see. We'll see what they say. It's all, it's up to Harlequin and readers, and I obviously hope that they love it. Yeah. I hope they love it.
What about anything else coming out this year? Like, we're only halfway through the year. Do you have anything else coming out this year?
So the book after this one is coming out, and I don't have my author copies where I show you, but the cover is beautiful. It's a snowbound cowboy Christmas, I believe.
Sorry,
and seriously, the cover is just gorgeous. I was really, really excited about that one. So that's the last book that comes out this year. And so I only have like 4 books this year, which is not a lot for me.
Just kidding.
And then next year I should have the other 2 B books, and then I think I have the other 2 special edition. So so that is and then I think at that point is when I start doing more of the heartwarming, and hopefully we'll work out something more for more bees, or something in the area. It's a nice little community. I introduced the little town where they have the chocolate festival. I mean, there's
it's like you can really, that's the beauty of small town contemporaries, that you can branch off so much. And those of us who read a lot of it, like I said, so and so needs their story, that as a reader you're reading it going, they need a story, and readers, you probably get a lot of like, okay, so when's so and so getting their story? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes. So the Kings of Country was the last big series that I did, and there's a 4th sibling. Well, that was a big spoiler. There's a sibling that didn't get a book, and the publisher didn't want it. They didn't want to buy the 4th book, so it's up to me to produce it. Well, as I just told you, the first 6 months did not go as planned for me personally with my father and all of that good stuff. So, so it didn't get done this year. And I know that I have to get this book done. I mean, like, the readers are like, when? And you have to also make sure that Hank is okay. They're very invested, and I am right there with them, because it just feels like it's hanging open. You know what I mean? That there's this huge thing. So I have to write that book. I do have to fit that in somehow. So maybe I'll get that out next year too. We'll add that one to the list.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. This was so exciting.
This was amazing. Thank you for having me. And I'm so glad you liked the book. You have no idea. I told you before we started, I'm more nervous about this book than anything I've ever written. So you saying that you enjoyed it just made
Don't
my
be. It was fantastic. I mean, it was just, I don't know. It was everything I love about small town contemporary,
oh
which
my
is my
God.
bread and butter. It's where I got my start reading romance, you know?
Yes.
I've never been a big fantasy reader or anything like that, but this is what I love. This is what I know. And I loved it.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you.
So I'm encouraging everyone. It comes out on Tuesday, right? On Tuesday?
Tuesday. Yes. I can't
Yes.
believe it. Yes.
Pre-order it now. Go pick it up in your stores. All those lovely things.
Great. Yes. And let me know what you think, because readers reviews from you guys is so important. I cannot tell you.
Absolutely. It's the best way that you can show writers that you love the books.
Yes,
So
that'll be great.
big advocate for that as well. But thank you. And hopefully maybe in the spring you can come back and talk about the next book.
I am totally here. Yes. That sounds great.
And thank you everyone for popping in the comments, and we'll talk to you in my next video. Bye everybody.